Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Med-Legal Greenroom. I am Sam Frentzas, co-founder of the Driving Force Company, and I'm really happy to have Tracy Liberatore here. That's a little bit of a mouthful, and I hope I said it correctly.
Yes, you did.
Awesome. So, Tracy, boy, you bring a rare blend of clinical and legal expertise. So you rarely see both sides of the coin. But after a decade as a physician assistant and another building and leading a medical legal firm and running Med-Legal Pro, you now train clinicians, right, and become a trusted expert witness through your National Expert Academy. So you understand, again, both sides of the tables, but more importantly, how to bridge them. Welcome to the Med-Legal Green Room.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Awesome. All right. So I have a question here right off the bat because I did a little work and I wanted to really dig in here. So you spent 10 years as a practicing PA, then you went to law school because you had some time on your hands, of course.
Yes.
Then you built a medical legal firm. That's not a common career path. So what drove that? That to me was really interesting.
Yeah. So, I loved clinical practice, right? And I loved seeing patients, but I also observed, the day to day stuff looking around me that I was getting all of the work that the residents were getting, and residents were graduating and becoming doctors. And I, as a PA, was not. I was staying. This was like my ceiling. And so I thought, well, I want to do a little bit more with my life. And so I wanted to try to do something different with the education that I did have. And so that's when I decided, well, law school was going to be it because that's not, you know, a pivot away from medicine. It's a different way of being able to use your same clinical experience um, and have more control over my time, my schedule by opening, a firm. And then medical experts just was the thing everybody seemed to ask me for. And I sort of just fell into that.
So then you got to tell us, what does the Med Legal Pro do?
My Legal Pro is for lawyers who are looking for vetted clinicians to work on their cases. When we take anybody on, there's certain things that we look for. Obviously, the credentials, but even beyond that, somebody that is somebody that you want to talk to or work with, somebody that's not going to overbill, somebody that's going to get the cases done, be responsive, be communicative. And so, if it's somebody we like to work with, then we know it'll be somebody that the lawyers like to work with. And then on top of that, for the past 10 years, I also have been working with clinicians who are trying to navigate the legal world because it is confusing when you first start. You don't know where to begin. I remember that. And so we've really carved a path in the legal world with MedLegal Pro. And so we help clinicians who are trying to build a medical expert practice run the business side so that they can just work on cases.
Okay, that makes sense. So at least for that. But I want to ask here something that what is the biggest mistake you've watched qualified clinicians make over and over again? What can they do to get out of their own way? Essentially.
Yeah, so the biggest mistake that I see working with people is when they're writing their reports. I think in the beginning, they maybe don't understand how important the report is, how widespread it gets seen, and that that's their work product and it precedes them and it talks for them even when they're not in the room. And so, an attorney that's reading the report that may have never even met them is judging them based on what they're reading. And so, if you don't have a report, um, that's into the standard of the legal stuff, then it's kind of a really important thing. And the biggest mistake in reports that I see is that clinicians don't understand that they really need to get all of the explanation out of their brain onto the page. So for causation and connecting the dots with their analysis from what the standard is, why it was broken, and why did that cause the harm to the patient.
And that again will cause an attorney not to work with you again if you're not playing at that level of field.
That's correct.
And the other thing is, and bringing this back in, I know I watch a lot of medical stuff from ER back in the day to Grey's Anatomy. It doesn't make me a doctor,
That's
right?
right. That's
I can
right.
I can throw out all sorts of medical terms. And so for the attorneys listening, what do you want them to know about working with a trained expert versus an untrained expert?
Yeah, so, a trained expert is going to be the one that you're going to get their report. You're not going to have to do a lot of editing. You might want to change a thing or two because there's certain things with your jurisdiction that are different, but for the most part, it's going to be a report you can use. rather than one that is going to be just a headache and you're going to have to go through and do a lot of editing, a lot of training with these people. And, I know the attorneys hire experts to try to save time. And so if you're hiring somebody that's not really trained, then you're not going to be saving yourself very much time if you're having to train that person.
So this is something you can help vet so then they can save, right, time, because at the end of the day, time is the most valuable commodity you have. This will help them save time and make sure they have the right person instead of
Well,
going through all the wrong ones.
that's right, because the experts are my work product. And so I don't want to have an expert that doesn't know what they're doing. And so if an expert's going to come through Med-Legal Pro, either they've done some expert work for themselves or they're going to go through some sort of training. And again, this is where the National Expert Academy idea was born.
Okay. And look, at the end of the day, if you start collaborating and putting all these pieces together, then you have a really cool ecosystem for attorneys and providers to be able to, the top 1%, as we say, uh,
Yes,
to work together. Because at the end of the day, it goes back to the client or the patient that really needs the best doctors and the best lawyers advocating for them, treatments, the whole 9 yards, legal.
that's right.
So if you have all this together, now you have, it's just funny, we just said this, med legal pockets, but you have the med legal aspect of it set.
That's
So
right.
that's brilliant. And again, not coming from, John Hopkins and, all the big accolades that you see, you're able to smart enough to be able to put all these pieces together. Is there something that's missing, right? So we understand from an expert to an expert what the attorneys, are really looking for, what clinician mistakes. What other nugget of information can I grab out of you that we can share that somebody can actually use right now, whether it's a doctor or an attorney that can help them maybe just take a little step to become better, other than obviously coming to you, which we're going to get to in a minute. But I like getting just one little extra nugget that we can offer or that your expertise can offer them.
Yeah, so this, I guess, would be what I consider the brain flip. And I've written about this a little bit, but when a clinician is trying to get into legal writing, and I always tell them when I talk to them, it took me an entire year of law school to learn to write this way because what I noticed was I was writing from the perspective of I'm treating a patient, I need to know what the diagnosis is, I need to know what the treatment is, and I need to document to pass it on to the next clinician. But when you're writing for the legal world, it's more than that. So everybody wants to know what happens in your brain in order to get to that diagnosis. You're not used to having to write all of that out. Maybe a little bit in the physical exam section, you might put a couple notes, but the whole process in your brain. And so that's the part that has to make it to the report in order for your report to be, like as I said earlier, that you want to the standard of care, your analysis. That's everything that's going on before you get to your conclusion or your diagnosis. And so if you're looking to get into legal writing, really focusing on owning those skills. What happened that should not have happened, or what didn't happen that should have happened, and how did that cause harm to the patient?
So in other words, don't make it up as you go along. Follow in the footsteps of others that have been successful before you.
Yes, well, that too. Yes.
So then on that note, um, I think the best way. So if anybody needs to get information, wants to learn more about you, want to even work with you, I'm going to put your email below here. So please email Tracy directly. You can put in the subject line podcast, so we'll make sure that you get moved up the ladder in her email box because we know it's full every single day. And then you can ask some questions, learn, see how you can work with her. And really, again, change your perspective. Don't be untrained. You only have one chance to make an impression to an attorney, and you really don't want to blow that because then I'm sure it's really hard to get back in their graces, and they're going to want to work with you. So you only have one opportunity. You really need to show up on day one, ready to go, and be that resource for them. Same for the attorney. So then this way you create that ecosystem. But if you're all operating and sailing in that same direction, boy, it makes it a lot easier to work together, doesn't it?
That's right. And if you've trained for medical school and you train for nursing school, you might as well train for expert work too.
Perfect. So everybody, you got the email below. So not everyone gets this, but I'm putting it in there below so you get direct access to Tracy, learn exactly what the Med-Legal Pro is all about. And Tracy, thank you so much for taking time out of your day. I know exactly how busy you are, and your time is limited, sharing your expertise. The National Expert Academy, the Med-Legal Pro. I mean, what you brought here for everybody, I think is absolutely amazing. And you're making everyone better. At the end of the day, the client for the attorney and the patient for the doctor gets the outcomes that they need and deserve at the end of the day. So I
Absolutely.
appreciate that so much. Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you, Sam.